Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Market Mindset, your source for insights on mining, energy transition, and market trends. If you like precious metals, critical metals, and the future of energy, you found the right place. Whether you're an investor or just curious, hit like, subscribe, and notify so more people can learn about the importance of mining. It's a big issue for us to get the word out, especially with there being such upbeat and optimism from a lot of the big talking heads and the people who know the most about this sector. There's a real undercurrent brewing of optimism, and we want to share that. We want to be a part to pull more people in. So the more you share, the more that gets out to people. We've also got a link to our daily blog and ideas and kind of whimsical notions on things on Substack. That's below, and it's on X. Now, can't help but talk about before we get into the uranium story that's once again building and continues to build. It kind of did a peak last year, and if you felt like you missed out, it's roaring again. There's lots happening out there with nuclear and with uranium. But before we jump into that, I want to talk about two quick things because they are relevant and they're not exactly, it is a market trend, I suppose, but it ties more into just the way things are right now. And we see it's a big deal because it's Canada and it's TD Bank to pay $3 billion in charges in the US. That's a big number. They've pled guilty. They've resolved it for money laundering. Now that's a big deal. Like HSBC has done it a number of times, and it's almost funny if you go back and watch videos. It seemed like every 3 or 5 years they would just plead guilty, take their fine, but the amount of money they're moving, it still works out as a net positive for them. This one is so ugly because in the Reuters article, they're saying, in just one of the examples, TD Bank facilitated over $400 million in transactions to launder funds on behalf of people selling fentanyl and other deadly drugs. Like, that's the level of corruption. I mean, we see it throughout the West right now. And once again, I don't care what your thoughts are on politicians and the politics. There's been a ton of corruption in Canada. I mean, it's nonstop for the last 6-7 years. The lawsuits, the probes, and like all of them, whether it's in England, Germany, US, they go nowhere. And because these are the elites and these are the people running the show, and nothing ever gets done. But it doesn't go unnoticed, even if you are a person who likes that party, whichever side you happen to be on. There has to be a day of reckoning for these people. And that when you see those people who are apparently supposed to be leading your country, setting the tone, and then it goes down to, the bank's like, hey, we can get away with doing stuff as well. That infects everything. We tend to see and get angry at the street level crime and get annoyed that, people are looting stores or they're doing this, they're doing that. Of course, that looks bad, but on a scale of what is done at the higher levels, it's shocking. It's terrible. So it's hard to complain when you say, crime has been rising. It's getting a lot worse. Well, yeah, you have a tone that's being set, and maybe I'm being a bit too harsh. Let me know what you think. But I think there has to be a bit of cleaning up and reckoning, and that I'm not pitching someone to be that solution. So don't get me wrong. I'm not here to do that, but I am just saying all people involved, every side involved, I think it's fair to do some critical thinking and some probing to say, I think we need some change here, and hopefully it's coming. On that note, just as we ease into the uranium stuff, I wanted to also just talk about Russia, talking about or pitching the notion to their BRICS associates and colleagues that they should create an alternative to the IMF. So once again, whether you think this is propaganda or just wishful thinking or just gaslighting, whatever you think. This is also Reuters, public news. They are suggesting it. No, people may say they'll never pull it off. But once again, this has been growing. I mean, this is part of the whole story that on our side of the news, and I don't like calling it alternative news. It's just news. It's just not mainstream. For whatever reason, I don't know. I mean, Reuters is mainstream, but you don't see CNBC and CNN really jumping on what this means to really have a breaking apart of the U.S. dollar being the main currency. We've talked to you about J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs, their take on it. They didn't never saw that it would go this direction, and they quite frankly think that it's so small that it isn't a big deal. But like all things, when cracks start showing, unless you fill those up, the cracks get bigger, and it just seems to be widening. And people look towards silver, the precious metals, strong foundations in order to find some resolve and also to feel some security. And I think we're seeing that too with the amount of uncertainty out there sociopolitically and all that. There's a rising tide of people starting to realize, some of this narrative out there is very iffy and questionable. I've got very firm opinions. I don't think they're very hard to imagine what they are. I try not to be too out there because they're just my opinions. But there are certain things that I would think everyone would agree, and that's that this kind of corruption that's done. We have to deal with this stronger. It's nice to be kind and loving, especially on individual basis with people, but also you can't shy away from statistics, facts, numbers, and reality. And I think we need a bit of tough love. We need a little bit of sobering up and a little bit of a plan and structure. And part of that, I would hope, would be this recognition from the top down in Canada to make us investable as a country, and to really take advantage of the natural resources we have in order to meet this obligation. And it really is an obligation to be cleaner and to be better, and that involves mining. And once again, I don't pretend that mining is the cleanest thing to do. It isn't. It's very challenging, but we certainly can do it very well. And it's our time to shine, and the miners' time to shine, because I think we're getting there where there's going to be a lot of attention, and all the naysayers are going to be waiting in the wings. Just like they wait, they say how terrible nuclear is. Doesn't matter. All the science, all the evidence, all the data, all it takes is a movie from Netflix to get people scared. So people have to be prepared that when there's a limelight shone on mining, there's going to be no end to the NGOs and the environmentalists that are going to attack as fast as humanly possible, even against their own self-interest, even against the very solutions which they think they need. And it's very confusing. And that's the narrative that we're having to face. And that is challenging nonetheless. But how does that all come together? Well, uranium is a big part of that story. And when you're talking uranium, you're talking Canada. I mean, we are blessed with incredible Athabasca Basin, but also other areas. But that is really the place that is the bastion of Canadian uranium. And we have a number of companies doing exciting, wonderful work there, exploring, and there's an opportunity there for massive growth. And what's interesting too, and we won't talk about specific, especially exploration companies. We'll talk about some of the bigger news stories that are out there right now. But the likes of, say, a Cameco, I mean, yes, they're in the basin. But more importantly, last year, they bought Westinghouse, which was a U.S. Actual reactor maker. And that positioned them to become not only like vertically integrated, not only a uranium miner, but now having Westinghouse under the umbrella, they also make reactors. That could be a setup that is incredible. And I guess there's two ways as an analyst to look at that. You'd say, "Ooh, I don't know if I like that. You're in too many businesses, although they're the same. But they're not. I mean, one is your mining, and one is engineering and kind of technology and whatnot. But if those two core groups have remained the same, working on things, you become a great feeding system of, we have the product you need to put into your reactor. Here we go. And also, it's more challenging to as an analyst, because you just want just simple. What do? We do this. Boom. Okay, I'm a chip maker. Boom. I'm not a chip maker and a dressmaker. But these are close enough that I think they have set themselves up to be a very important company moving forward. And people watch them like a hawk to see what the numbers are. Are they opening more of their mind? What's going on? So we saw some summer doldrums with uranium because last year it really took flight, and then people thought, oh, maybe that was the push, maybe that was it. And whether it's me, whether it's Sprott, whether it's like someone great like Justin Hune, if you know the space, you'll know that's someone you should be looking at. Like Peter or Chris Marcus, Justin Hune is the uranium guy. I would urge you to check it out. He really does deep dives into the uranium space. I'm always happy to talk about those people that their sole focus is one commodity. I don't use the word expert very often, but this truly is an analytical type of person who is an expert in that space. And we always want that. I'm here as a promoter to the space and a conduit to I guess excellence, and that would be someone, if you really want the down depths and the details, one should look at. And of course Sprott too. I put that out there because if you want to just go to one spot and learn, that's a great resource. We have tons of stuff on as well with our own kind of take. We have a uranium report that is on our site. We'll put it on the Substack as well, and it's pretty detailed, maybe perhaps too ambitious. I think we've done a lot of reports. I'll give this one like a B if I'm a bit more critical of myself. I think just once again, too ambitious, too many topics. I get too excited with going outwards and whatnot. But if you want a ton of information in that as well, it's there. It's free, and we'd love some feedback. But it's missing the story and the flow that sometimes we have in other ones. That's me being a little bit critical, but take a peek. We're happy to share it with people and get feedback. We don't cover every company in there, but we throw out some names, and we're excited about what's developing there. I mean, if you just go straight to Sprott, I believe as well. So I'm bouncing around here a little bit. Actually, before I get into there, let's put this under this kind of notion of a couple ideas. One is that Jensen Huang, of the CEO of NVIDIA, he came out and he said nuclear is going to be vital. It's going to be an integral part of the solution. That's a big recognition. And our kind of thesis was, and I said it on a show about 8 months ago, I said, I think trying to get government to do anything is so challenging. You need to convince these billionaires, these big tech billionaires, and they're going to have to hammer it in and hammer it home. They've got the money, they've got the hustle, they've got the followers, and if they decide we want nuclear power as the data or baseload for our AI data centers, they'll get it. You, me, and Cameco and everyone else could petition for things all day long. It's not the same as if this crowd of big tech billionaires says we want this. They're going to get it, and it kind of looks like that could be happening. We even see, The Economist with their article out talking about the deal with Constellation Energy and Microsoft with 3 Mile Island. This is the first of its kind ever restart. It's not a slam dunk. I think it's 1.8 billion or 1.6 billion, which really, that's not really a big number for the likes of Microsoft being involved. There are key permits that are going to be required. Once again, that'll take time. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk and it's going to be easy, but you're talking Microsoft here. I think that it's hard to say no to this. They're going to make a great case. One of the flip side arguments I saw to this, which was interesting, was, wait a second, are you telling me that, and there's two different stories here. The 3 Mile Island is a massive nuclear reactor. A lot of these other companies are saying they want smaller nuclear reactors, like the eVinci, which is Cameco or Westinghouse, or the small modular reactors. They don't need a giant one. People are saying, well, wait a second, how come they going to be able to get baseload, but we're not? Is that how this is going to be? Which is interesting. It's an interesting take to think, well, wait a second. Just because they can get it done and they're going to get it done, they'll have like tried, tested, true, stable power anytime they want it. And if you're trying to go renewable, we've got some good numbers. It's getting stronger. It's getting better. The batteries are getting up there. I mean, it's a lot of work, but you're going to have, but wind and solar aren't baseload. They're not. What is that going to look like? So there's been some interesting discussions over that. Once again, I hate this word, the fairness of it all. But what there is no doubt is that it's moving forward as it should. It's the best story to explain the difference between, well, there's a couple of them. Actual evidence and data compared to narrative has been a number of things. One is the story of nuclear energy, as well as a lot of things we've seen over the past few years come out from mainstream news and their involvement in pushing narratives and propaganda. Whether you choose to go down that rabbit hole or not is up to you. But I think more and more people are starting to realize that if you want to know something, you have to put a bit of effort and put a bit of work into it. Reading a news article or an opinion piece, listening to my opinion, isn't work. Like, it could be fun. It's entertainment. It maybe is an impetus to go, well, wait a second. Andrew's claimed that this is safe. We hear all the time that it's not. 3 Mile Island, wasn't that a deadly disaster? No, it wasn't. It isn't nothing as well, but hopefully it propels people to go, I am actually interested. I'm going to look at the data. And that's the big difference. Don't ever hand your power to your own thoughts and your reasoning over to someone else. This is the problem with a lot of news, is that you're getting an opinion from Fox or CNN. I don't care which side of the road you're on. We all know those are very different opinions. And you're allowing them to curate that for you. And there's a number of times where they'll quote or they'll look at a paper or a study and they'll cherry pick what they want to focus in on and leave out almost everything else. Now, do they do that on purpose to be misleading, or they think they're helping, or they're also lazy? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I don't have to have a conspiracy theory over it. I would just say to people, if you're interested, the best thing you could do is go to the source. We all remember back at university, that was the deal. If you were going to source something and state something, who said it as a quote in history, boom, where did you get that from? I got it from this book. It was Winston Churchill. He said this. Okay. Can you verify that source as well? Like, it's important to do that. The reason why is because you need to know who is telling you that message. If it's that, I got it from Zero Hedge, and then I go to Zero Hedge and click the link and it doesn't go to anywhere, it goes to some other blogger. Well, that's not terribly great source. Like, I'm not just picking on Zero Hedge, but you know what I mean? That's not great. So where you're getting data makes a big difference. It's something we really highlight. And the reason why we call it the market mindset is that you have to have a mindset that is open to being wrong, open to critical thinking, and trying to think of your opposition's points of view as well, and see, are they reasonable? Are they unrealistic? Or like, oh, you know what? That's a good point. We need to think about that. And mining is full of that because you have a lot of stakeholders, and you need to get a lot of people on board and comfortable, as well as feel like they're a part of the win. And it is very challenging because you can be in foreign countries where, they are happy to take the money to build out infrastructure, but then when they realize, well, that's our critical metal or our gold in the ground, and you're taking it from us, and like, well, you're happy to take the billions of dollars, and you signed a deal, and you did this and you did that. That's a very tough, relationship. It's not easy. And of course, the media will take whatever spin they so choose on those things as well. That you can imagine, it's very, very challenging. I mean, you've got issues with water, with the permitting, with environmental access. There's things that are so key and critical and important. They're not just kind of wishy-washy. It's a lot of work. I want to talk too about specifically in the uranium space, a very interesting deal that got done simply because I've spoken to Corey Diaz quite a bit from Anfield Energies, but we saw ISO Energy. They bought them. They expanded their near-term U.S. uranium production by picking up Shooting Canyon Mill. That was very interesting because Anfield it was quite a good portfolio of assets, but wasn't getting a lot of attention. And I remember thinking, well, that's very odd. They have a mill there that just have to get it up to speed. Like, I'm surprised no one's coming and hunting that down. Like, this just takes some refurbishment. It's going to take a little bit of effort to get it up, but there's not a lot of uranium mills out there. I'm surprised nobody wants this. Well, yeah, somebody wanted it. And although this ISO Energy stock is down from its highs this time last year, this could be a very big game changer. I mean, it's certainly showing their long-term strategy here. So we're going to keep a big eye on ISO Energy. Maybe we'll reach out to them, see if they want to jump on and tell us what's going on. But that's very interesting. We like to see things like that because I don't really have a comment on the deal itself. Obviously, Corey over at Anfield was happy with it. But I can see this shaping up in a very interesting way for ISO Energy with the long-term possibilities here. So something to keep in mind. And there's plenty of companies doing outstanding work. Last year, even though it was a challenging market for a lot of juniors and a lot of explorers, uranium shot up. And it did pull off. There's that great article in the Sprott Insights that talks about the summer doldrums and people thinking, oh, maybe it's done. Maybe the run's over. No, most of the people in this space are like, hang in there, hold on. This isn't stopping. Now, there's plenty of reasons for that between production in Kazakhstan, the political infighting, separations. That matters just as much. If you think BRICS is important because of precious metals and coming off the US dollar, you have to remember Kazakhstan. They're going to do deals with the West as well, but they do a lot of deals with Russia. And that's really where their relationship is. They could just as easily sell to China if this breaks apart further. And Kazakhstan is the place in the world for uranium. That would really require a ton more investment into Canada specifically by the US, by Canada, to really, really wrap it up and start really, developing some of our resources here. And people will say, especially Athabasca, can be quite long in permitting. It's not an easy process. There's shorter time frame companies and more midterm projects that are open. Athabasca is obviously incredible, but in our report, in this uranium report, we do highlight some of that, the more near-term projects that have assets that maybe could be brought online a bit quicker. And we say this over it doesn't take long to scroll around. If you look online and do a bit of a Google search and say, well, who's involved in all of this? Kind of like the cobalt mining, and we mentioned a whole bunch of big names involved. Well, whether it's, of course, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Sam Altman, all of them have billions invested in different nuclear deals. Pretty much all of them understand that this is a critical catalyst for change. So whether it's, let me just find the different companies here. Warren Buffett's company, Mid-American Energy, has applied to build a nuclear plant in Iowa. Berkshire Hathaway also has Pacific Corp, which is partnered with Bill Gates' TerraPower. That's an SMR developer. They're also getting money from the Inflation Reduction Act. They're looking, their company's in Kemmerer, Wyoming, hoping to have operations by 2028. OpenAI, Sam Altman has both fusion and fission. So he's got Okla Nuclear. And he also has another company, Helion. Yes. A fusion company called Helion Energy, which he signed a deal to provide energy to Microsoft as well. That was a $375 million deal. Whether it's the WEF, the UN, the amount of what do you call it? Pledges towards nuclear from the US and Canada is huge. Now, of course, people are saying it's out to 2050. They're long-term projects, but this has to start now. To build a nuclear reactor is not simple. Even the smaller ones are complex and takes a lot of work. So I think when people see how much it takes, and then they look at China, who can get things done immediately, like the timeframes are fast, I think there has to be, once again, a top-down narrative from whoever's leading in the US and Canada to say to people, this is what we need to do. Whether it's like literally like a War Measures Act or some sort of act to say, we need to fast track all of this. If you have any ambitions of doing a tenth of your climate goals, there has to be a serious commitment to make the process fast. You can't have it be 17 years to have a mine up. It can't. It couldn't really be 5. I mean, that we need to have a speed that will do what we need to do as fast as possible. And we're going to find some people to talk to that can give us a bit of a heads up. But I know that in the past, in the 70s, it took a year to get a nuclear power plant permitted. So if it took a year back then, it shouldn't take 10 years or 8 years here now. A lot of that is just simply because you've got court case after court case after court case and people trying to stop projects. And that has and some of it's legitimate for sure. We have to have people kind of rebut and push back to make sure that people are doing things correctly. But I don't think it's oversight that we're missing here or regulations. I think there needs to be once again, like a Bureau of Mines. There needs to be something like that in Canada as well that has oversight that says, here's the plan, here's how we're doing it. We're not letting some Joe Blow environmentalist group stopping this because of a cactus. If you really believe that this is a foundational issue in the world, that cactus won't exist by 2050. So we might have to sacrifice some things. If we actually critically thought about the overall narrative around climate change and that discussion, we should be doing this with haste. And the narrative is far too much over here, thinking that it's AI and chips and some solar panels and whatnot that's going to fix everything, which is unrealistic, or even any renewable, to being, well, what, even making those, how do we have all the necessary critical metals? No, we don't. Okay, so what does that look like? They have to not shy away from the harder conversation. And I don't think it's that hard. It just takes a bit of education. I think that they think, we have to talk about this. We've told people how terrible it is and all that to get voted, and we're going to defend the environment. These are horrible people. Now we have to turn around and tell them that they're the solution. Yeah, you have to bite the bullet. So show some leadership. So anyways, I could go on and on. Obviously, I'm pretty passionate and opinionated about it. Take a look at the uranium report. We didn't want to forget about it. Right now, gold and silver are hot. There's so much happening. There's a lot of companies getting attention, getting funded. I didn't want this to veer off to go, oh, look over here now. You should still be looking here. You should be talking to your advisor, looking at your portfolio and mentioning some of this and asking them some questions. Because while things are going like gangbusters and building, it's going to build in all of the mining sectors, and people are going to start looking. I mean, we saw with lithium how important that last deal with Rio Tinto is. This is going to continue to happen. That big story is not dead. And we need to get a push through the next couple months to see everyone kind of feel like, where are we? And we could then be sitting on a big run. And this is the time. Do your research, start digging, find out as much as you can. Also share it out to people, like brand new people that wouldn't even want to hear about mining, because the more people we get on board and they start asking questions and talk to politicians, the better. Pardon me. Anyways, enough of that. I hope you guys have a lovely Thanksgiving weekend. It's a nice one out here. Send me some questions if you have any on uranium, as well as, remember, we put a list out on our Substack of the companies we'll be speaking to on Wednesday and Thursday next week in Toronto. If you've got any direct questions, we'll be happy to take them to there at the fall showcase for Red Cloud. Thanks so much for all your questions and your feedback and whatnot. We really appreciate it. Have a great long weekend. And we won't see you next Wednesday because we'll be live at the show, but we will see you the following Friday. All the best. Take care.